So I just found out that the Confederate monument that I used to visit in downtown Norfolk when I was 14 years old to learn about U.S. history, because as you all know, my family came to the U.S. as legal immigrants, and we needed to learn and have a reference about U.S. history in order to become a part of the society and become Americans. And it took a while for us to be able to learn to assimilate, because it's a process for most newcomers to America that are wanting to learn about U.S. history. They would have to go through quite a bit of learning stages in order for them to appreciate the value of the history of the country that they have adopted and called home. What I'm really baffled about is that those slave owners that people claim to be, seen as offensive, or those Confederate statues and Civil War soldiers and officials all spoke English. That's the language that every single one of them spoke during the time when America had slaves. Yet not one single Democrat or any other individual that wanted those statues to be removed can prove that they're not offensive, or they're not offended by the English language. How come you're not offended, and how come do you speak in English if history offends you, if what took place many years ago still offends you today, even though it never really affected you? So I'm just trying to process everything, because if you all want to be consistent and say that these Confederate statues and soldiers or whatever memorabilia reminds you of slavery or anything that was done, well, not just to the black population, but to the Native Americans, the Asian population, and every other non-black minorities during those times. They were oppressed. You don't hear them wanting to tear down anything. Okay, so why do y'all still speak English if you hate the history of this country so much? What other language do you speak? Stop speaking in English if the history of this country offends you. Find another language to speak, because the language that was spoken during the slave trade is in English. Those slaves were taught and were spoken to in English. So why are y'all still speaking in English? This said, please just try to enlighten me with all this stuff about being offended by history. Now my children and their children will not have the opportunity to learn U.S. history with those learning tools, those visual aids that y'all had removed. Do y'all even think about that? There are other people other than the black and white population in this country. Have some sort of decency to share and let people learn about U.S. history, because you're not the only one that needs to live in this country. There's other people that have to live in this country and has to learn about what's going on what had happened in the past, and try to learn from it. Okay, not just delete it and destroy it.